Hey guys, happy Thursday. Today is Thursday, January 15th. This is Bruce Marshall with Simpler Trading doing the nightly premium video with our outlook on the market, where we've been, where we're going, and we're also going to look at a lot of trade ideas. So let's jump right in. I've got the ES up here on the screen, and we had a pretty crazy day today if you were watching this or if you were trading. Let me move this stuff. I've got gold and Nasdaq here. We'll come back to that, but right here, this is the ES. Of course, this light gray is the overnight session, and we were just going up all night long, and then the open kind of took a little breather, and then we took off new all-time high here in the ES, and then this was about lunchtime, and then it just started giving it back, and very frustrating. This is I did the write-up today, one of the write-ups today, and I was saying, this is a bullish market. Everything looks bullish. Moving averages are bullish, and all that kind of stuff. It's good. It's been here's the last 20 days, and we're going higher, higher, higher. And actually, that was not an all-time high today. It was here on Tuesday, but we still continue to trend, lower left to upper right, and that's what we want since the first of the year. But we're along with that, we're getting these big, pullbacks, these downdrafts that keep happening, and I think they will soon be over, and I'll tell you why in just a minute. But let's go back out here to a little bit longer term view. And so this is the ES. Again, we've got a big voodoo tree line up there at almost 7,100. This is ES. And I'll clean this up just a little bit. I'm just going to put simple moving averages here. And as you can see, this is a great looking chart. 2025 was a great year. We had a fantastic year trading. 20-day moving average came down to the 50 occasionally. One little blip here, and then we're kind of off. So we've been hugging that 20-day moving average, and it just keeps looking higher. So if you look back, this is a 1-year chart. You can see these areas where we just kind of plateaued after moving, kind of plateaued, because the market has to digest these moves, right? And we've kind of been in one of those since the first of the year. And I'll zoom in here and I'll show you. So if this is the start of the year, there's 2026 right there. And if you notice, since January 1st, down day, down, down, down. So we've had 4 down and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 up. So that's why, this is a bullish market, but it feels heavy, right? But again, if you look at this lower left to upper right, that's where we're going. And we keep pushing new all-time highs and new all-time highs and new all-time highs. So everything's still fine. Let's go back out here and let me zoom this back. Out. If we compare this to the Nasdaq, same thing, same pattern. And you can see we've it looks like, we've kind of gone flatline here. That's fairly typical. The one exception is the rut, Russell 2000 here, and it is off to the races. Look at this, pivot up off. There's, 2026 new year right out of the gate, straight up. And that is because interest rates are going to be cut. They're being cut. They're going to be cut in 2026. Everybody knows that, and small caps are going to benefit. And I love the RUT and the IWM. I'll switch this over to IWM here. There you go. Same thing. Want to buy it, but I don't want to buy it here. I'd love to get it on a pullback. It just looks pretty frothy to me. We'll get a little bit deeper into that, but we've looked at the charts and kind of where we've been. So where are we going from here? And the first thing I want to look at is the economic calendar. And what we've got is today is actually option expiration day, and for the AM, they'll settle tomorrow in the morning AM, Friday morning AM, right? Always be aware of that. Next week we have we started earnings week this week with the financials, all the big financials. Most of the big financials are reporting this week. We'll have more to come, but next week we'll get deeper into, I say knee deep into earnings season here. We do have Netflix reporting next week, and I think Intel and Intuitive Surgical, some of the rails, CSX, I know reports, that type of thing. But the biggie is this week, the 26th through the 30th. Oh, and don't forget, we got a market holiday on Monday, the 19th. Don't forget that. So the biggie is going to be this week when we have Tesla. I don't have a list here in front of me. I think we've got Not Amazon, but we've got believe Google, Apple. They'll all be in this week or the next week, first of February. So lots coming up, and I have no reason to think that those earnings are not going to be good. There's just no reason to think that, right? So we have to lean bullish into this earnings season, I think. And around every earnings is going to be guide. What does the guidance say, and so forth. So I think that's going to be good. It'll drive us higher. Should drive us higher. Again, next week we have a lot of earnings coming out, but next Friday we have PCE, so that's personal consumption expenditures, and that's the biggie that the Fed watches to make policy decisions and things like that. The Fed will take that, and then on the 28th we have a Fed meeting. 27th, 28th, they'll announce on the 28th. That could be another big driver for the market. So what do we expect from that? And I'm glad you asked, because we have our Fed Watch tool here, and our Fed Watch tool right now, current target range 350 to 375. There's 350, 375, so there's a 95% chance of no rate cut, right? So that's going to be the same. 350, 375 remains 350, 375, 95% chance, So we're not going to get a rate cut this next meeting. Now, there could be some crazy, and we get one, but I don't see that happening. There's only a 5% chance. So that will they'll kind of kick the can down the road for that. Now, we don't have a Fed meeting in February. We do have one in March. But as we know, it's not so much about the rate decision. It's about the guidance or the context around, the meeting and what they say. And, it's just like earnings guidance. The numbers important, but the guidance is more important, right? And that's the same way with this Fed meeting. So, again, a lot coming up in the next 2 to 3 weeks. I think overall that most of that is going to be positive and continue to drive us higher. So that's my backdrop on the market, kind of where we've been and where we're going. Again, I think overall for 2026 that we will have a good year. I've seen price targets 7,700, etc. I have not seen this year. I haven't seen any. You always see some that are way down here, 5,400 or 4,800. We're going to come back here. I'm not seeing anything that's indicating any kind of, I get the question all the time, what about a black swan? Let's put a black swan trade on. I don't see anything at all that indicates anything massive like this. Now, there can always be something out of left field we don't know or we don't see coming. But right now, all indications are data looks pretty good. Inflation is in check. Fed's going to keep lowering rates. Everything looks positive. Now, that being said, this is a 1-year chart, so last year we did this. I think this year we might do more of this, and and have larger swings, and still go higher, but I think we might kind of have more volatility associated with 2026, which would be amazing. It'd be great if we did, because we can trade that, and it's actually easier to make money in those kind of markets. But anyway, we'll see. We're only 15 days into the new year, so we'll see. So this is where we've been, where I think we're going, at least in the short term and the long term. I think we do go higher. Not, you never go straight up without pullbacks, as you can see here. Even this fantastic move, pullback, 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 etc. So be ready for that. So as far as specific names, let's look at a couple of things. First thing I want to look at, you probably heard people talking about gold and silver. This has been the, around the holiday season, the Christmas parties and everything. Have you seen gold? It's just been fantastic, to trade this thing. It's been higher, higher, higher. We've been trading this, been working well. Now it's a little frothy. Expect pullbacks just like this. You had an amazing run up here and a pullback, and a higher pullback, higher pullback, higher pullback, higher. Where's the next move? Probably pullback to then probably go higher. So take that, put that on your radar to watch at least, and it is good to trade. And it's much more favorable in the futures market. then trying to trade the GLD, etc. Same thing with silver. Look at this. The chart of the day has to go to silver. Look at that. High five. I mean, that's amazing. I got a call today, or text message today, from a buddy of mine who does not trade, asking me if he should buy silver. And this happens all the time, but I'm like, yeah, you should have bought it over here when it was at 26 bucks and not, 85 bucks. So can't touch, what is MC Hammer? Can't touch that here. I would be interested in if it pulls back or whatever. It may keep going, I don't know, but it's going to have to go without me from this level. But again, keep an eye on that. Now, there's a whole lot of reason. You've seen all of the metals and all of the stocks, rare earth minerals and all of these stocks in conjunction with the construction stocks and the AI build out. All this stuff has been crazy, and I think it's going to be a good sector, honestly, for a long time to come. Speaking of which, well, let's look at that. Just some of these names. We've got, what do we have? I mean, there's a bunch of them, but we've got GEV. We've got Okla. We've traded this thing many times. It's been a really, really good stock to trade. I like it here. Honestly, I would probably like it better back down to 200, but I don't know if we'll get the chance. Talon is looking fantastic. Huge gap up today. And the one I want to talk about specifically is Next Power. Full disclosure, I am long this stock, and you see this channel we've been in here. It's finally broken out. This was a couple of days ago. They announced a joint venture in Saudi Arabia to put solar power plants throughout the Middle East, etc. This thing, it probably goes higher. I'm long, like it from here. Of course, be better on a pullback. Keep in mind, we got earnings coming up out here on, let's see, when is it? It is 127, which is right there on Tuesday, not next week, but the following week. So that can be a wild card. They can say, we've got all these contracts to build out all this stuff, whatever, but it's going to be longer than we thought, or it's going to be more expensive than we thought. Well, anything can happen, right? So this thing could have, we could have a quarter like this one. But the way that you handle that is to, if you're long the stock, for example, maybe we put a collar around it, around earnings, or we buy some puts, temporary, puts, just to get over the earnings or whatever. But anyway, I can help you with that. Let me know if you need help with that. So that's another one. And again, I'm long that one. Let me show you the chart here. I've got this chart. We've got a little resistance up there at 100, 101. We get through that. 786 is at 106, gets us up to there, and then ultimately 120, 130. Now again, all that depends on what happens here with earnings, but it looks very good. A lot of these names look really good in that sector, and the sector is kind of broad: construction, power plant generation, solar, all that kind of stuff, right? First Solar, for example, pretty interesting. All right, the next one, because I told you guys I was going to give you some names, some ideas. The next one, of course, we've got, and this is an oldie but a goodie, Apple. Look at that horrible looking chart, right? Well, maybe not. Now it is breaking down. The chart does not look good. Let me put my Darvis box up here. It is holding so far right here. And again, if you didn't know the name and you look at that, you would say, ooh, man, I don't know about that. Because what typically happens is just like this. You come down low, Darvis box holds, come back up into the 34s, and then you take out that low. And then you come down and, somewhere down here, and then you take out that low, and, etc. And that's what these moving averages are trending down. This thing could, take out that low and continue to ratchet down. But we've got earnings. Ta-da! Maybe that saves us. I don't know. I suspect it will. Again, 129. That is 2 weeks from today. Now that could save us. They come out, best quarter ever. Everything's great. Or, this quarter was kind of rough. That kind of thing. But let me show you what I've got here on a weekly chart. This is off Dynamic Trader, and weekly chart, look at all the support you got in here. Weekly chart, not daily, not hourly, not 30 minute, 120 minute, that kind of thing. A lot of support, 255, 256. We're at 258 right now, so we've got support coming in right under this. A lot of support, next zone 253, which kind of would be right under there. Next big cluster of support, 246, 248, right under that 250. So a lot of support down here that should hold. Again, wild card is here. We just don't know. But I am considering, I haven't done it yet, but I'm considering buying some leaps on Apple, honestly. And then, I sell short term against it, premium against it. And I can show you how to do that. Pretty straightforward, but I think that's a pretty interesting concept. We could do a trade around earnings, but I kind of think I want to get into something a little bit longer term with that. We'll see. We're not quite there, and we're not quite to those zones, but we're very, very, very close. Again, let me pull that up. 258. I mean, that could even be tomorrow, 256, and then I'm assuming that's going to hold all that kind of stuff. And the way we do this is we would put a tight stop under our entry point at a dollar amount or a percentage amount, depending on our trading plan, and we go from there. We don't worry about it, right? If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't, right? The next one I want to show you guys is another old favorite here. Amazon looks great, coming back into 34s. Now, I say it looks great. Now, we had this from the last earnings. We had chop suey earnings, big pop up, and then chop top. Now, it did break out right here and has come back down to, I think, probably go higher. Wild card out here. What's going to happen? It's not confirmed, but it's supposed to be around February the 5th, I think. Yeah, 2.5. Let me show you the chart. So this is toss chart, and this is, oops, where did you go? Okay, right here. So this is my Fibonacci chart, and this, I use both. This is price support here, 233, 236. We're at 238. Where's 233? There's 230, so it's coming in about right there. So this is lots of support right under here, 233, 236. And I actually did the trade of the day on this one today. And if you didn't get that, let me know, and we can talk about that tomorrow in the room. All right, so we will have, you see this level here, there's actually a Darvis box up there. 250, 249, 251, that's at 250, which correlates with that. By coincidence, honestly, it's not why it's there, but it just lines up with fib levels. I think we get through that. We've already touched it once, came into that level once, kind of failed. You typically hit once or twice before going through. Next level up there is 261, which would be up here. Now you can see I've got larger time frame targets at target 1, target 2, and I think that those are fine, right? The problem is, guess what? We got earnings coming up. So that, for me, that kind of blows these at the moment. So what I'm doing, this is on February the 5th, so I'm looking to do a trade that expires on Friday, January 30th, because the 5th right there, if you use the 6th, then you've got to hold it over earnings on the 5th. So I'm going 1 week shorter than that and doing a trade. And again, we can go over that tomorrow when I'm in the room. But that's the concept, right? And then guess what? We can do another trade for longer term, maybe like the Apple. Maybe we do some leaps. Maybe we do the stock or collar or something like that. I don't know. Well, I haven't decided yet. We'll create a strategy as we get a little bit closer and as these levels kind of tell us which way it's going to go. All right, lastly, we've got an oldie but a goodie, Royal Caribbean. We trade this thing a couple times over here. Man, what a rocket ship. When it moves and moves and moves. I mean, look at that run there. That's crazy. Look at that run there. It's crazy. I think we're kind of gearing up to start another one. We're coming down into 34 right there. Guess what? Got earnings. All these, anything you look at, for the most part, there are some off-season, kind of outliers, but for the most part, everything you look at, be careful. They've got earnings coming up, right? Now, again, it's not confirmed, but it's around the 27th, which is right. That's February. Right here, Tuesday, 27th, right? So I'm looking for this thing to hold and bounce. Here are my levels, of course, on a daily. 270, 273. We're at 278. I was going to say I would buy it here. I've already bought it here. I am long the stock, full disclosure. I'm long RCL, I'm long NXT, and I'm long Amazon, all three, full disclosure. So got a lot of support we're coming into right here. Should hold. That correlates with, this Darvis box, maybe a little bit lower. But this should, should hold, and that should give us a good setup for again, for running tourneys. Now I am going further out on Royal Caribbean, because this, it could, you can approach it one of two ways. You can say this may or may not work and then put a stop under it, or you can go further out in time. And I'm actually going to go further out in time with an options play on this thing and go out and try to get not only this quarter but the next one. I'm going to go out to about April and try to get kind of both these, or at least a run into this one. If that works, great, I'll take it. If not, I've got time, I'll go out to April and do that. And I think it's 17 April, let me see, is when the option out there is, and then they report on 429, approximately 429. So that gives you kind of two chances to win. That's pretty cool. I may do a separate video on that because I think that's a really good concept. But anyway, that's another one that looks pretty amazing. One last one I'm not in, but I'm looking at it. I'm going to switch this over. Well, I'll leave it there. Is I like the semiconductor sector. ON Semiconductor, we've traded this a couple times, made good money in it. I'm a little less. I think we might run into some overhead and come back down first, but I want to have exposure to the semiconductor sector. Obviously, Micron, Lam Research, KLAC, all that kind of stuff. Look at Micron, crazy. I told you guys a couple of weeks ago, or it feels like a couple weeks ago, maybe it was a week ago. After this run, a way to play this is you can still buy the stock here, and then you could sell an in the money or at the money covered call. And at the time, if my memory is correct, I think we're getting like 40 bucks for an at the money call or something like that. That gives you a lot of buffer on the downside. Or you just wait, and it might pull back here, and you might get another chance for a run higher. I still like it. I think they're in a really sweet spot here. Lam Research as well, kind of same thing. Let me show you this. Lam Research. So look at that. Wow, man, these things are great. So keep an eye on the sector, keep an eye on the AI build out. We all know the story. It's been out there for a little while, but I think what most people are kind of missing, especially the infrastructure build outs, even these old boring construction companies, they're going to have a lot of business on their hands for years, 4 or 5 years. So, in energy, power plant, solar, all that kind of stuff. I think that's got a long way to run. So keep an eye on all that stuff. So with that, let me wind it up. Let me know if I can help you or have questions on any of this stuff. We can talk about it in the room. I am going to post this video, so if you got questions, let me know there. And with that, let me wind it up. Again, be nimble the next couple of weeks. I think we are going to be volatile, but I think that'll give us a lot of opportunity, especially around all these earnings. So stay on your toes and let me know if I can help. Thanks for your time, guys. I will talk to you tomorrow. Thanks.